Will Wade, head coach NC State men's basketball, spoke to the media today. Do you know what I am starting to greatly appreciate about Will Wade? And it was actually one of the things that we predicted would happen when he got the job at NC State, but I mean, he's delivering in gangbusters, like way over delivering. He brings personality. He brings something different. If you cover college sports long enough, or heck, if you're just a fan of college sports long enough, I don't know why I'm acting like you have to be doing this professionally to catch a trend. If you pay attention to college sports in any way, shape, or fashion long enough, you start to realize so many coaches are the exact same. They may wear a different, team polo. They may speak with a different tenor in their voice. But what is it? It's our team's getting better one day at a time. We're focusing on ourselves. We're not going to put any guarantees out there. Matter of fact, a lot of coaches get mad when players talk about guarantees. And it's just coach speak, coach. You could, I'm sure in the world of AI, you could go find, some AI bot where you just, type questions in and say, give me the traditional head coach answer. And they'll just kick out something like, our players are working hard. We're proud of them. We're trying to turn them into young men, great husbands and fathers into the future. And if we can play some good football while we're at it, then we're doing a good job.
We're not just developing college basketball players. We're developing men.
And then somebody,
that's what it would sound like.
Yeah, exactly. And then somebody like Will Wade walks in and says, I guarantee you we'll be in the top 4 of the ACC. We're not going to wait to win. We're going to win now. I like my food in a microwave, not in a crock pot.
Not just the top 4. I mean, he said on John Rothstein's podcast, he said if we stop worrying about what surround us and stop focusing on what our facilities, what we don't and don't have compared to the other schools, Duke and Carolina, he was like, we just focus on ourselves, I guarantee we'll be a top 15 program in the country next year. And it's just like, man.
It's different, it's refreshing, and I like it because it does put a little pressure on everybody else, right? If everybody says nothing, right? If every coach in the ACC or every coach in the Triangle says nothing, then it's okay to say nothing. But once Will Wade starts doing it and getting attention for it and building a brand for it and becoming known for it, everybody else is going to have to look around and try to figure it out. It's I don't know if this is the right analogy here, but it's, the 40-year-old rapper, right? And then all the next generation comes up and they got to try to adapt, right? Because somebody else is getting attention for some other reason. We've seen it, right? The mumble generation comes in or whatever, and suddenly, old rappers are trying new things. If Will Wade is being a little bit more brash, if he's being a little bit more open, if he's not afraid to say things that make headlines, and the headlines end up helping, right? Because now players know who they are and recruiting and donors like it and all of that starts happening, it's going to make everybody more interesting. And I've made this comparison before, but I want to be clear. It's just in role, not in quality, and definitely not in accomplishment, yet. But it feels very, in no particular order, Dean Smith, Coach K, Jimmy V, right? Where Dean Smith was the most buttoned up, right? He was very old school. Coach K was a younger coach trying to upend some things, but still presented very coachly, maybe with a bit more anger and energy. And then there was Jim Valvano that was like, where's the microphone? I got something to say, and everybody's going to want to hear it. I'll host radio shows. Will Wade is kind of playing that same role. Again, we don't know if the quality of coaching is ever going to reach the level of those three, and they darn sure haven't accomplished as much as those three, but it's very similar in that the Duke and UNC coaches are more buttoned up, right? They're more coachly, if you will. And then the NC State coach isn't afraid to ruffle some feathers, isn't afraid to say some things. So Will Wade spoke to the media today, called out a reporter before anybody asked a question, got into it, and answered the questions openly and honestly, which is how we've seen him operate really since he took over the job. One of the questions he was asked, what's his pitch to different players when trying to recruit them, which I find fascinating for all coaches. If I could just, sorry, Graham, just real quickly, if I could have like one truth serum, I would ask every college coach, like, tell me what you're telling them. How negative are you going? How much what are you promising these kids? Because, We never know. But Will Wade did answer the question, what's the pitch to different players when he's trying to recruit them? And here's his answer.
Well, it depends on the player, depends on the situation. A lot of it's just about, first off, you talk about our history and you never want to go somewhere where there's not banners hanging. If they hadn't hung banners before, you're not going to be the first to do it. So we talk about our history in terms of team wins. You talk about our history in terms of individual players, NBA players, that sort of thing. Then you talk about your personal history with NBA players and winning and your background, and you try to mesh all that together to where it resonates with the kid and the family.
It's actually recruiting is that. You want to boil it down? What the video game just came out? College Football 26.
Yep.
I don't know if this is in there, but back when NCAA football was the name of the video game, you had to recruit in the offseason. Super nerdy stuff looking back, but I did a whole bunch of it. Right, you get your dynasty going. And it would say like the priority list of the recruit, and then you'd have to choose out of 10 options on what you were pitching them on: proximity to home, academic prowess, program prestige, like all this stuff. And it is kind of that way, right? Part of being a coach, and I actually think this is where John Shire and I think Will Wade and likely Hubert Davis, but definitely Shire because he's one of the best recruiters in the country. I think where they master is finding out what's important to the player and then selling yourself on that, right? We have audio from Shire yesterday that we'll get to later in the show, and he talked about recruiting the Boozers and how it's different, right? Not only is it different because their dad is Carlos Boozer, but it's different because they're twins and they're coming in as a package, and you can't pitch the twin Boozers, Duke, in the same way that you would pitch Cooper Flagg, even though the taller Boozer and Flagg were two of the top recruits in their respective classes. They're not the same. Will Wade is going to have to read that social scenario the same way and come up with different pitches for different players and understand that some of them are just, I don't need to really talk to you. I can just slide you a number on a folded piece of paper across the table, and if it's the highest number they've received, they'll commit. Will Wade isn't done recruiting, even this offseason. He'd like to add another big or two, and you heard him say that right here.
Look, we're still looking. We'd like to add another big or two if we could find the right guys. At this point, you need a little bit of luck, whether it's a foreign guy or some other things that happen. But we have our antennas up and are looking. So, but I feel solid about what we've done. We've got a solid team. I think with another piece or two, it could be a really, really good team. But we'll see what happens between now and August 17th.
Do you know what is an underrated, and again, State fans, be excited with how Will Wade is presenting based on what I'm about to tell you. One of the most underrated traits is the word I'm looking for a college coach right now is energy. And I'm not talking about you have to be the annoying guy in every workout that's like, one more rep, let's go. Come on, dig deep. I'm just talking about you can't need days off. You can't. There are none. As soon as your roster is put together, you're recruiting the next roster. Or even if it's a dead period and you can't reach out to other transfers or other recruits, you're evaluating. Right? In the interview, I'm sure you're asked about offensive philosophy and how do you see building through the portal or not, or how do you fundraise? What are your plans? All these things. But if I'm an athletic director and I'm hiring a coach, I need to know that you can bring it. I mean, if not 365 days a year, like 357. And that might not be fair. It might not. You can't get into the office at 10 o'clock, even in the off season. Because the portal is constantly turning. Think about how crazy it is. Back in the day, and I'm talking about like the years we talked about, right? Coach K, Dean Smith, that group, Jim Valvano, whoever you want to throw into the mix. They had to worry about recruiting like 4 guys a year, right? They just, if you get 4 guys a year, every year, you're doing okay, which means you evaluate. I mean, for those programs, the top 150 high school players in the country? pick the 10 you're going to recruit hard. Hopefully you get 4 of them. And I'm sure sometimes in certain years their hit rate was higher than that. They could have recruited 6, got 4, called it a day. Nowadays, everybody has the 247 sports and everything. You got to survey thousands of high school athletes in the country, another probably 1,000 overseas somewhere. Then you have to evaluate every college player in the country just in case they go into the portal. And with the different windows opening, it doesn't stop on signing day. You have to keep going. Will Wade strikes me as a guy who, like, and I've recently had this conversation. Recently somebody asked me what my hobbies are. And I was like, well, my free time, I do a lot of yard work because our yard is a mess. I hang out with my kids, and I do a lot of sports watching. And they're like, well, sports, that's kind of your job. I'm like, yeah, but it's also kind of my hobby. Like, if I wasn't in this, I would still go home and watch games. I would still read all the articles. Like, that's why I chose this as my hobby. And maybe that's sad. I don't know. But Will Wade strikes me as that kind of guy who's like, yeah, if I wasn't a basketball coach, I'd probably still be watching tape and trying to decide if I know this guy is good or not before everybody else. That's good because again, I don't. You want life balance and all that stuff. I know it's not popular to say nowadays that you kind of got to be, a workaholic. But to win in college sports, you got to eat, sleep, breathe this, and Will Wade seems to. Right? Hey, we're still like to add 2 bigs. Right? His roster, everybody's praising him. Right? The reason he got to talk trash to the reporter is because everyone's pretty much universally praising his transfer class. Like, he could go, all right, Hayes in the barn, let's take a break. No, he's going like, if there's the right guy, I can get 2 more bigs on the roster. There's always something else to do.
When I was leaving, I saw Craig Hamill, who's NC State basketball's SID, in the hallway, and I asked him, I said, Craig, would it be possible for Coach Wade to come on our morning program Next Up that I produced with Paul Ihander? And Craig responded and just said, well, Coach Wade's getting on a plane tomorrow. And I said, well, about Friday? And he said he'll be out of town that day. And I was like, well, what about Monday? He's like, well, he's going to be getting in from his recruiting visits throughout the weekend. He said, basically, end of the week's pretty hard for him because he's out in the recruiting trail. So Raleigh, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the office practicing summer workouts. Thursday, Friday, and then parts of the weekend, he's right back out there still trying to build a roster. He said that he's willing to use up all 15 scholarship spots on his roster.
And I mean, even when he's around, right, he pops up at a softball game. He's out at like, it doesn't seem like he does anything by chance. If he shows up at a restaurant, there's a reason he chose that restaurant and not the one across the street. If he's seen doing anything, there's an idea behind it. It's not just by happenstance. At least that's what it seems like.